Me personally couldn't have cursed my bosses out and still had a job, but I ain't Ed Reed. I ain't got the resources. I ain't got the reach Ed got. If and as far as Reggie Theus, Ed was gonna do his job, well, not all of his job, was gonna do a part of his job for him. Part of your job as an AD is to raise money, better your facilities. Ed was gonna do that on a football part by himself. And had they got a nice weight room, I'm sure other sports would have used that weight room. Had they got an upgrade to maybe an on campus something, other sports would have been able to have access to that. So he was going to improve the facilities not only for football but for the school. Would they fumble the ball? Because the only people that's really hurting is the kids. Because Ed still got his money, Ed still got his businesses, Ed still got his foundation. The president obviously ain't going away. He's still gonna have the finger up his butt like a puppet. So the only people that's hurting is them kids.
It's your boy Verse, and this is Open Mic with OTR Mike.
Shit, yeah.
Yo, what up, good people? It's your boy OTR Mike. I'm back with another episode. That's right, this is the show where the mic is open for any discussion, no matter what it is, who it is, or where it is. As you can hear in my voice, I'm a little under the weather. So my guests, they're gonna help me lead this one. I got three guests this time. We back to talk about part 2 of this Ed Reed situation. Obviously, it has taken some legs that we probably didn't expect it to, right? We got the big news publications involved in this situation. We're dealing with some protesting from the students, amongst other things. So yeah, a lot has changed since the last time we discussed this. Last week, I had my guy, Coach Evans from Sip to Tally Films, on with me. What's up, Coach?
What up now? How you doing today?
Man, I'm trying to hang in there.
I got you. I'm
You know what I'm
gonna
saying?
hook you up.
I'm trying to hang in there, but I'm here.
You
And
gonna
then I
bounce
had
it
my
off.
man, D Mac, former Washington Redskin, former Philadelphia Eagle. Spent, a second or two with the Ravens. But like I said last week, the only Washington Redskin I ever cheered for, the name of Cats. What's up, brother?
What's happening?
I can't call it, bro. I can't call it. And then this one, special guest, man. Listen, he has we got ties outside of this. We'll discuss that later. But I wanted to get this brother on because one, he shared some insight on the clips in the videos from our last week's episode. He is heavily involved in HBCU. He also played HBCU football, was an athlete. So I wanted to get him in here to get some more insight to further this discussion that we have going on. Plus, Jones, what's up, brother? How you?
Good morning, good brothers.
Good day, good day.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Good. No complaints.
Again, short notice. I appreciate y'all jumping on last minute. You know how we do. Sometimes black folks, we kind of
It's the
last
fun
minute.
part.
It is a fun
Don't
part.
make it a black thing. No, it's us. That's who we is. It's
Yeah,
no thing.
and yeah, I talked to Coach and Mac. I talked to y'all kind of last minute late, like, hey, what y'all doing tomorrow? And then this morning, talking to my wife, I'm like, man, Plus would be good for this. So let's see what he doing. And he was able to jump on real short notice within 10 minutes notice. So I appreciate y'all as always. So look, we're gonna get this kicked off, man. A lot has changed since we talked about this, Mac and Coach. A lot has changed, right? The episode, I actually held the episode to this past week, right? Then the news dropped that Ed Reed was like, go. Coach was like, man, drop it now. And I'm like, I'll hold it. I'm gonna hold it till Monday. So I held it. But, we recorded this, the last one we recorded before all of that has taken place. And then since then, I mean, it's kind of been a shit show, right? If we being honest.
Right.
So let's start with this, man. This is the start of where all of this went downhill.
Good morning. Temporary. You never know the day nor the hour. None of us know when that time will come. You understand? We've been around here trying to change things, and we have, and this has changed quickly. My vision for change is probably moving too fast for a lot of people. I'm not withdrawing my name, as they saying. They don't want me here. They do not want me here because I tell the truth. They have never had this many people here in the recruiting time, and Coach, I've been saying that. We've been here at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. I even slept here one night to make sure I was comfortable, and I was. My God. This hurt. This hurt because I know people don't care about these kids like I do. And they should be the ones leaving, not me. Because I don't want to. Why? Because Jeremy Greaves, whose father I looked in the eye, and y'all mothers and fathers who I talked to last night, even though I knew they didn't want me. I took $2,400 out of my pocket and still gave it to the host to host these young men. Shit, at this point, I'd do it for free. Because I have been for the last 3 weeks. That man have too. He drove from New Orleans because he believed in me and my vision. And that man right there who flew from California less than 2 hours and got off the plane, and he was here to see the rant.
So that, right? That led to. So let me explain that, right? For those that's been under a rock, that was every recruiting weekend. He had, I guess they said 40 plus recruits on campus. And that prior to, while all of that was in motion, had people on campus already, he was told allegedly that his contract would not be accepted. He also went on and further that video to say that they wanted him to cancel the recruiting visit in the midst of it. Why he had people already there, people on their way there, etc. He also talked about how he did not withdraw his name, like they said allegedly. There's an email or publication floating from the university that he decided to step down, not them, the other way around, and not picking up his contract. That then turned into his rant, as he said, which further went down the line, and then we ended up with this.
HBCUs reached out to y'all.
We've been in contact with other head coaches from HBCU. I turned down the Jackson State job to come here, Roland Martin. Jackson State Brown called me. Deion Sanders called me himself, man. Gave me. So everything is that Ed is saying is accurate. There have been other offers before Bethune-Cookman in previous years from other
Grambling.
I'm sorry, bro. From other HBCUs, there's been opportunities for Ed to be a head coach at multiple colleges. This was an opportunity. The location, the campus, everything about Bethune-Cookman was extremely appealing, which led him to ultimately choosing this over the opportunity at other institutions. I came here, I was impressed. We hadn't seen everything, but just the lay of the land, the campus, the location and proximity to the beach. We thought this would be a great opportunity, especially being in Florida too. Very.
So, again, news publications got involved, Roland Martin in particular. And it went further. I got another video, but I'm going to say that for a minute. So, fellas, as I said, so much has changed since the last time we were here. Let's just cut to the chase. What are your thoughts on how all of this has played out to this point? The firing, even the last video I played.
Was he
Some
ever
is,
hired? He ain't had no contract.
well, his contract was never accepted. So to this point, what are your thoughts, man? I'm gonna start with you, D-Mac. How has this played out through your lens, man? And are you surprised? Did you see this coming?
I'm okay. So from the first rant, the first thing is he seemed shocked and appalled. So, like I said, just off the video, you get a certain response of somebody who, if you're shocked, you're going to respond a certain way versus if you already know. So if I've walked on that campus and I've seen all that trash, my response isn't going to be, hey, man, this was trash from here to there. It was trash. You know what I mean? It was going to be like, hey, when I first got here, I knew we had to clean this up. That also being said, being a compliant African American, I also know the diplomatic side of it. It wasn't there. He went straight into, as the athlete, it's just straight passion. I can say personally, when I started coaching Little League football, I was still playing the game. I was running down the side of the field and on and off the field with the kids because I didn't know how to detach myself from the emotion and passion of the game. I had to sit back and say, okay, I am now a coach. I have to think differently and respond differently than I would as a player. The reason he's great is because of what you're seeing, his passion. Now, that doesn't necessarily work for a group of people, of businessmen or business people who want to have certain practices in a certain way. Unfortunately, what the history of HBCUs have been, they have had NFL players, they've had Hall of Famers, but they come in and they're compliant Negroes and they don't say anything and they just deal with what they have to deal with and try to work it out the political way versus now with this media, it's straight to the people. And now, of course, when it goes straight to the people, everybody has an opinion. Even people who've never been to a black college, even people who don't know nothing about Ed Reed or football, they just have the response. And now you're in the court of public opinion. Now, guess what? That looks bad on the school. Now the school has to save face because they still do have some business that they don't want to mess up, right? And obviously, him doing what he did wasn't going to benefit the school per se, far as the business standpoint. So that was kind of how I saw it. You know what I mean? Like he definitely could have handled it more diplomatic, even though he had that passion, but a lot of stuff and how his responses were, it seemed like he was shocked of what was going on. So that's my perspective of it.
So I think that his response or his emotional response was a direct result of his being a novice to coaching in general, and then HBCU athletics. So those two things didn't work well for him in coming to get that contract executed.
Okay, can I chime in real quick? Doesn't his father come from Southern? He down the street from Southern University, right?
He's from New Orleans.
From New Orleans. Yeah, he's from New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about him per se, him personally.
Okay.
Yeah, him personally. And then I think one thing we need to probably really do in laying a foundation as it comes to a discussion like this is that all HBCUs aren't the same. Even when back in the 90s when I played at Virginia State, there were no issues like this. There were no kind of presentation issues. There were no, the field looks great. The locker rooms look great. Same thing, my freshman year, I was actually at Virginia Union, even though their facilities were small and inadequate. They were neat. They were clean. I think, again, this all is a matter of economics. And I think Bethune-Cookman as a whole has had some economic issues as it comes to the school in general. And that was merely because of the administration and the faculty and just kind of bad people running the school. So when you have cases like that, it takes time to recover. But if you go to Morgan's campus or Virginia State's campus,
Delaware State.
yeah, I haven't been to Delaware State campus. These campuses are up and coming. Delaware State, I'm aware of the things that are happening at Delaware State. It's because the school took the opportunity to leverage their resources. Now they can put more money into athletics. You know, they have a beautiful campus coming up at Delaware State. And these are the changes that are happening at HBCUs as a whole. But you're always going to have some bad elements when it comes to institutions that don't have the kind of oversight that, you know, normal institutions have. And we must always center this around the fact that, you know, land grants allowed the Stanfords and the PWI institutions to build. And how my government teacher in high school always put it to me, if you look at it like a race, and if someone gets a 400 meter or 400-year head start on what you're doing, then you're always playing catch up. So those land grant institutions were able to build. And then in 1969, when the University of Tampa played FAMU, and FAMU beat the brakes off for the University of Tampa. That's when the move towards capturing our resources, which are our Black athletes, started to happen. I'm working at Virginia Union with Willie Lanier, and he was one of those athletes that he played at Morgan State, Hall of Famer. And the reason why the National Football Hall of Fame has 10% of the people are Black, and they mostly went to HBCUs because these HBCUs were the only outlet for football players that eventually made it to the league. But it was so heavy at the beginning that remains the kind of swath of NFL players that came through HBCUs. And because of that game in Tampa in 1969, PWIs became very interested in bringing over our resources, our Black athletes. And that's where we are today. And this is why the NCAA football is a $14 to $17 billion annual business, because on the back of our Black athletes. So I think we always need to center the discussion in the foundation of what's happening, and everything else is just a symptom of that economics, in my belief.
Yeah, and it's before you jump in, Coach. I want to point out two things. One, D-Mac, you said the same thing last week. You said what they took from us was our greatest resource, and that's our Black boys. And also, plus, it's something that you said this week on your comment to one of the videos about the land grants. You said that to me, which I did not know. But then there's an article floating with Eddie George at Tennessee State, which said the same thing, that apparently there's a land grant over top of that university that hasn't been paid for over 400 years or whatever, something crazy like that. So that's another side of it that I did not know about it, that you educated us on. So I appreciate that. Coach, what's your thoughts, man, from your lens? What's going on, man? And what do you see?
And I'm gonna try to be completely unbiased because my wife's a Rattler, and you know that hate between Bethune and FAMU, but she loves Ed Reed because she's a Ravens fan also. But really, I thought what he said, you really can't do that as far as that first rant that we talked about at first. But then you think about it, because somebody asked me, he's like, well, if you go curse out your boss, you're gonna be fired. And I said, probably, but I'm not Ed Reed. I don't have the influence and the resources to help the entire school. So, you know, I probably could get away with that. I probably get a nice stern talking to if I'm Ed Reed, but I probably wouldn't get fired. Me would be fired, but because I can bring so much to the school and not just football, that it may have been a way to ease through that. Should have been a way to ease through that. And just looking at the whole thing, and Roland Martin's show was extremely enlightening because he took all sides, gave everybody a chance to say their piece. And looking back on that and looking at what has transpired since then, man, they doing something wrong up top. They're doing something completely wrong up top. I don't know, I can't give you particulars, but what it seems to me is, and I'm going to try to wrap it up, it seems like the people, and D-Mac, you said this, the people up top are comfortable. And now with Ed, because you can't control Ed, because Ed don't need the money. He's just trying to get into coaching. So he's gonna say what he has to say. And because he's came in and shook the boat, and now you potentially may or may not be up out of there, now you got to try to save face. And one thing in particular, because that made me realize that something going wrong, is one statement from 3 different people. The president came on Roland Martin's show and said, Roland asked him about them having a locker room and being able to shower. The president said that was not true. They do have a locker room. They do have showers. So then the kids came back and said they didn't have showers and whatnot. And you can kind of see he say, she say. But then Reggie Theus goes on HBCU game day and says, no, they don't have showers in a locker room. So now this man has blatantly lied. So what else is he lying about? Because we caught him in a lie that's documented. So now what else is he lying about? We don't know as far as finances or anything. We really can't trust this man as far as we can see him. So at this point, I think even though he's the interim, and I think he's the interim because the board is controlling him, he needs to move on. Just like, I understand they move past Ed, which they probably shouldn't have, in my opinion. But now they need to move past this guy. And if they're going to build it right and do it right, start over. Not saying shut the school down, but you need to find a real president first. Are they even looking for a real president, honestly? Because the board probably got they claws up his butt. So are they even really looking for a president? That's the first thing. Then they need to get somebody in there and move forward, if they're going to move forward. Because the longer they keep him up there and they keep trying to save face, the kids on the team that got opportunities to go otherwhere, going to go. The kids that they had their recruiting stuff, going to try to find ways out. And it's just going to be a shit show.
So perfect segue to that, because that's my third clip that I'm going to play right now. The kids discussing the conditions with their equipment and everything.
Coach Reed in 3 weeks has essentially done more than this entire administration and other program leads, like other head coaching staffs and whatnot. He's done more in 3 weeks than they have in like the past 5 years. Things that, Coach Drake mentioned, saying that we didn't share helmets, we don't shower, or we actually have showers. We don't have showers. We don't have a locker room. We have to watch out where we put our stuff in the stadium locker room so it doesn't get wet and then get moldy, and then we got to practice in moldy stuff. Or when we go and put our stuff away, we put it in the shed, and the shed gets wet from the rain, and then we got to practice in that moldy stuff. Moldy balls, moldy helmets. We share those moldy helmets too, and that gear.
Most of us had to buy our own Lysol and stuff to spray our. We had to clean our stuff ourselves. Once we get our gear from the equipment manager from that shed, it smelled bad. I remember the first time I opened my bag, and most of the guys were just like, "What's going on?" We asked if we could, we asked for the basics. We asked if we could get, stuff to spray our stuff down, and that probably didn't happen until like the very, very end.
Yeah, we got that maybe week 8 was when we got that. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure on week 5 was when we actually had the mold outbreak in our helmets and gear. And in my gloves alone, I didn't wear gloves at practice because it literally just smelled like the epitome of mold. Like I was just smelling a handful of mold. And what makes this even worse is that we had to deal with the conditions when we were displaced. That was even worse. And
so, fellas, I don't want to steer this to one side or the other, right? Because I did see a comment that I thought was interesting, and it kind of put both sides at fault, right? The comment was that Ed was wrong. But obviously, there's some, as you guys have said, there's some things going wrong in leadership and things like that. Now, there's also been comments saying, people need to take into account that Bethune has encountered 2 natural disasters with bad weather and things like that. I don't know how the funding and things like that work. Maybe y'all can help out in that situation or with that topic, but from that clip as well, where we going with that? Like, I know there's been protests now. The kids are they up, man. It's pictures of not even just what he was
Spark the
talking about.
fire.
Yeah, it's not even pictures of just the equipment, but like some of their dorm rooms and stuff showing mold and stuff on their pillows and things like that, man. And it's look, these people paying a lot of money to go to school. So is there a fix, man? Like what do we do going forward? And should it have gone this way? Right? I know a lot of people say this stuff should be kept in house. I don't know how much gets done in house, but where do we go? Where do we go from here, man? Fixing these situations.
I just want to say this, and then I'll let your two guys go about keeping it in house. And there was another gentleman that was on Roland Martin's show that basically said he was the old alumni president, the the alumni association that they actually have a lawsuit against, and he said that they'd been asking for basically Ed Reed has said exactly the thing they said, but they just did it with as far as in a business standpoint, like with letters and emails and stuff like that. So they've been asking for the same thing that Ed's been asking for. Ed just did it differently, and because they weren't getting anywhere or they felt like they were threatening, they disbanded their alumni association and now it's suing the old alumni association. So that's where they at. Though. So once he said that, that changed a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah, I think it's all based in economics. The revenue streams for the school, drive what can be placed into athletic programs. I think understanding the economics of it is an arduous task to give to the general public. Individually, we can sit down and understand this is how it works. But in general, we're going to go for the disco ball, the shiny light. And if there's any thought of Ed Reed doing the same thing for our program as a player that Dion did for Jackson State, then the students are going to fight for that tooth and nail, and they're going to want that. But I don't think it's that direct of a connection. I think that the economics of it, and the reason why I know this is because I work directly with HBCUs to kind of diversify their revenue streams. Most of them don't know that they have leverage with their real estate assets, which is really all they have. And when developers come on campus, and I've seen it happen everywhere, they come on. First thing they ask for is the land or control of the land, because that gives them the revenue or the equity to be able to finance the new dormitories. And they paint a picture like that. But when HBCUs do that, they give up their biggest asset. So again, we on campus at Virginia Union now, building the first HBCU health center on an HBCU campus. And it's all about showing how you leverage your resources. And it took us 3 years to get us across. And we had to sacrifice our own money on the feasibility studies under a contract to do so with the university. But we were able to design a model that works for HBCUs and using the things that they have, which are their real estate assets, which were the same real estate assets that were granted by government to PWIs, albeit 100 years beforehand. But you have to leverage those and then place the emphasis on, I'm going to build a new football field because athletics will drive this as an economic impact to the university. So first getting a hold of their finances, and Bethune-Cookman, and I know from kind of a personal connection that they have had some kind of really white collar crimes going on within that administration. You can see, you look a couple of years back and you see what administrators were there and where they've dispersed to now, and landed in different places, but they were the cause of Bethune-Cookman kind of being in that space. So proper administration and a progressive president at the top will allow you to move forward, because president like the interim president at Bethune-Cookman, to me, seems a little bit old school. And he's going to look at the picture or how it looks, as opposed to, I have an opportunity here with Ed Reed to really do some of the things that, we saw that could be done at Jackson State. And really, it is not necessarily that Deion or Ed Reed or Eddie Robinson or Joe Taylor. It comes around to their infamy. Their celebrity would enable, Jackson State was the same way, but Deion didn't respond that way. When they had a muddy practice field, Deion went to Under Armour and said, hey, build us a new practice field. When the locker rooms needed to be done, he went out and used his celebrity to bring people in to do the locker rooms, to give sneaker deals and uniform deals. I don't think they wore the same uniform in any game this year. That's what Ed Reed needed to leverage, and not so much about me. And he has to understand that his view is jaded. He was a 5-star athlete coming out of New Orleans. He went to the U. He played on probably the best college football team ever, and he's a Hall of Famer. So his life has always been, since he came out of his status in New Orleans as a high school student, he has always been in this kind of world that you only get 30,000-foot views of the rest of the world. Speaking specifically about HBCU athletics. So his view of HBCU athletics is probably the same as anyone that is not intimate with HBCU athletics. And I think that sometimes is a little skewed. And I know my view is jaded because I'm thoroughly immersed in HBCUs and HBCU athletics. But if we all look at looking for silver linings, there are a ton of them within HBCUs. We just have to all be involved in how we effectuate in our own little space, how we help them to monetize and maximize their opportunities to grow. But what all the schools do know is that athletics can drive this. So you get better facilities, you get better players, better results, and if we can start turning 3, 4, 5-star athletes back towards HBCUs, then sooner or later, we'll get some of that $14 to $17 billion annual economic operation that the NCAA football is.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, Coach Jones, or Mr. Jones, I love everything. I see things from slightly different perspective. One, we really don't know what's on Ed Reed's mind, his true perspective. So I'm not one to say what he really thinks or what he feels. But why shouldn't we think the best? Why is it that we're conditioned to say, hey, this is our situation and this is how we have to accept it? So with the mindset of a guy who has been all everything, from my perspective, that is how we should view ourselves and our facilities and our people. And too many times we've been conditioned to say, well, we from the hood and this is how I act because I'm from the hood. I never had nothing, so I gotta go act and be a certain way, versus saying, nah, this is what I want and this is how I'm gonna go get it. Now, like I said, the diplomatic side of it, yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's a certain way that certain things have to go because the system has been built and we have to kind of play the game within the system. We can't just go on the football field and be like, nah, we don't want to play like that. We're going to play like this. We got to play by the game. We got to play by the rules. And obviously we've been able to be successful. Then I love the point that you're saying we have to do better business. It's just that simple. We have so much leverage and so much power and so much influence, and yet we still have this umbrella over our head as if somebody actually truly controls us. Now, yes, there's a system, but like you said, 3 years in retrospect is a short time considering all the bullshit we had to go through before. So the fact that y'all getting it done in 3 years is awesome. I love it. Now, if you think it could have been done faster, more power to you. But that mindset.
No, I was saying that it took 3 years to convince them to move forward with what we were proposing.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, because we're slow motion. Because
we absolutely. And I think yes, but I think that it's jaded by and I don't want you to take this the wrong way. It's jaded by the conditions. Now, I look at myself as being outside the box. I don't feel like I'm conditioned, but I think in general that we have a condition as Black folks.
Yes.
We have a condition that is dynamic in every type of aspect of our lives. So if we microcosm this to HBCU athletics, and if I bring a HBCU president sliced bread or the wheel, and this HBCU president looks at it, and this is the greatest invention ever, I know it shouldn't take, you're right, it shouldn't take me 3 years to convince you that this is the best thing ever, because it simply is the best thing ever. But because of how we have been reared, how we have through the ages from Reconstruction through the Fair Housing Act, through integration, have been conditioned in a certain way, I think we look at each other, and when I begin an engagement with anyone, any institution, whether it's a city, county, HBCU, the first thing my wife and I say is, look, we know we're going to have a problem with perception.
Right.
Do you think these two middle-aged Black people can come in and tell us something that, this institution has been up for, 160 years, you're going to be able to tell us that this is a way to do it to make our situation better? No, I'd rather go to, this local institution or this PWI that's in my neighborhood or in my vicinity and say, please give, when I'm posturing you to say no. Here, we can provide a service to you. We can provide a partnership to you.
Right.
We can help you. Exactly.
You can actually own it. And when you own something, you actually make the real money.
Exactly. So that to me, if I went to a reasonable person and went and said and tell them these things, and they could reason and go down the line and do their checks and get the attorneys in to say, oh no, this is fine. And that's what ultimately did it. They went to their attorneys and asked them about the structure and so forth. And oh yeah, this is easy. What the lawyer told me last Thursday, why wouldn't they sign this deal?
No, but unfortunately, that's the problem. Like I said, and I'm gonna use some ageism. I'm hating on old people. They're coming out of Jim Crow.
Yes,
their mindsets are still stuck as
that somebody has to control us in order for us to be and do us. We are a different culture. We rule. Yes. We actually move in a different way. That's why I didn't like the statement, Mikey. We Black people. We Black people. Yeah, you can see that. We move a different way. We don't move like another culture. We have to accept this is who and what we are. But we can do things diplomatic. It's been done for centuries. We are the civilization. We are the owners of civilization culture. So Absolutely. It's been done. And like I said, people say we don't stick together. Who was out there when all these people get murdered?
It was only but us. So these statements are
narratives that aren't ours. So if we want to get something done, yes, we can do it. But we also have to move certain people out of the way or get them to understand whatever timeline that is, that we have to own us. And when we don't own us, then we get situations of saying, hey, we got this person in administration, the board is controlling, because guess what? That's what they want. Because they don't want you to move. They're gonna sprinkle you with the little dust and say, oh, everything's okay. No, this is how it is. Just accept
your situation.
Like I said, even living from Baltimore, I couldn't accept living with roaches and rats. It was normal to me, but it didn't make sense. Like, why are there mice in my house? Why are there roaches in my house? They're not supposed to be here. And from that point, I was like, no, when I watch TV, they living in big houses with pools. Why can't I live in that? Why shouldn't I live in that? And that's just the mindset. And that's the toughest part that we got to get over as a culture in a community of saying, no, we should have the best and we should own it.
No, absolutely. I agree with that. It's a debate that I have every day at work with my father, because he's from that era, right?
Right.
And I bought his business 2 years ago, and now he works for me, right?
Uh-huh.
So it is that mentality that you have to, soft shoe, Sambo, in all of these spaces. When I tell my wife and I tell all the people that we talk to, all the young folks that we deal with, is that we're always the talent in the room. not since they brought us over here have they ever done their own work. We have always done the work. It doesn't matter if it's in the field physically. It doesn't matter if it's in the upper administration of any institution or Fortune 500 company. We are always the talent. They always take our ideas. The U.S. Patent Office shows that when things that we invented were just claimed by other people. So yes, and I think to point on another kind of bullet point that you made is that our leadership is horrible. You know, even in Baltimore being a 65% plus black city, the city council, the mayor, other people, they don't know their power. They don't understand that you don't have to kowtow to these institutions that have been there for 200 years in order to get things done. You hold the power because you hold the people in your kind of quiver. You can get black people to come vote for me, and to understand that these corporations only want to control you is just boggling to me that no one has really shook that out. But I think, like you said, times are changing. Our generation is coming into this kind of middle-aged space where we start thinking about the future and our legacies, and you understand what you want to leave your kids. And I tell my father every day, no longer will we do it from our knees. We're not asking for anything from our knees. We're asking from a position of power that we had.
And all we got to do is stand up.
Absolutely, just stand up. And, you know, I think for us, economically, integration was the worst thing that could possibly have happened to us. We had our own spaces. You know, and since integration, our economic hold has been the same.
And school system.
In school system, terrible. We had all these things in place. You know, and so, you know, that's what we do at the Equality Equation Project. We kind of, in a below the surface way, try to show urban institutions, urban cities, rural black kind of economics and institutions and HBCUs. There's a different way to manage the wellness of our community. There's a different way to use, because implicitly what is being said is that we put billions of dollars into affirmative action, black wellness, community wellness, redevelopment, and no matter what, these Negroes cannot get it right. That's the implication, because they do put this money in. But what people don't understand is that
it's not our system.
It's siphoned through real estate. Everything goes back to the real estate development or real estate, because that's the economics of any city, any institution, even HBCUs. Their economics lie in their real estate assets. And when the resources, the TIF money, the grant money, the community black grant money is given to institutions that don't have us as leaders, meaning developers, then that doesn't trickle down. But we do understand that as a black company, I have 98% of my people, of 67 people, are black. I have one white person and one East Indian. You know, we understand that we hire black subcontractors. So if you move us up a tier and allow us to be able to use those assets that you give $600 million to Under Armour for Port Covington, or you get $20 million to Catholic Charities to do that, all to quote unquote help black folks. So we have to get, you know, younger people into the spaces, but in the same time work on, like, what I do is, you know, I had this dream of changing the world, but then realized that, you know, I can do that, but from my little small space.
That's all you can do.
You know, from your little small space, your little influence, I reached out to institutions that I had connections with. I reached out to cities and counties that I have connections with that I knew had the problem of black wellness. And, you know, you implement it that way. So it is until God comes back, I don't think there will be a time where we will hold any type of kind of powerful space, even as we deem to have that space, especially here in Baltimore. Black mayor, 80% black city council, all of the community development associations are black, and yet we still lived in abject poverty every day. You know, so It's a lot of work. So what I do is just put my hoodie on, put my head down, crank out the white papers to justify economically and operationally what I'm proposing, and then fight like hell to get access to the same things that PWI developers have access to. And that, again, is a kind of model for HBCUs as well, meaning that you get your economics right, and they have the bandwidth to do so in the leeway because they control their own selves to be able to make these changes. And from a HBCU beacon or a one community association beacon or being a lighthouse, then we can start to kind of slowly make changes, and that's all we can do is try to effectuate wellness in our little world.
Right. I had to debate you later on the power struggle, but from my understanding, BC actually is they're a private school, so that's the part that shocked me. They told me that. I thought since they was in the MEAC, I thought they was always a public school. But on that same note, every black college that sued the state has won. UMES won, I think, $500 million, and then the mayor blocked it from them getting the money. And the crazy part is that they supposedly are part of the University of Maryland system now. They're no longer, I guess, technically they're historically black college, but now they're owned by University of Maryland.
So, yeah, all of the post-secondary institutions, even Coppin State, are UMMS, University of Maryland economic system. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So basically, they take a percentage out of the business.
Yeah. So they don't really control their own. So when we bid projects at Coppin State, we have to go through the University of Maryland kind of procurement system. So they control all the universities, and that's by design. Because Virginia Union is a private institution, but Title III is just education is federal grants and subsidies for education. So you can go there, and then now with the PPEA Act, that all institutions, private or public, can create economic and educational infrastructure projects that will be funded as much as they or will have access to subsidies, grants, and resources from the state institution, whether they're private or a public university. So we don't give up because they put a check. There's always going to be challenges. They're always going to tell us stuff because they believe we don't read. I had a state senator, ask me and my wife, "How do you know all this information?" I said, I
should have told him God gave it to you in a dream.
Right. It came out of the sky. I said, I read legislation, and we take seriously the wellness of our people. We don't play with it because, again, my wife and
that's funny.
Right. My wife came out. I took my wife out the matrix, like I always tell her, out the federal government, and we could have went ahead and lived our lives comfortably, fine, sent our kids to college, and been okay. We didn't have to be the, kind of in the space or the troublemakers that we seem to, as they call us in all the political spaces right now. And it's only
because you're messing up the system, man.
Listen,
you're messing up their system. You are a troublemaker.
Hey, look, it took me a long time to find that out. But it was a humbling kind of realization years later after I done popped off to everybody. And now, I've been told that my political capital is zero. I say I haven't asked anybody to do anything but to do that devilish job. Do your job and we're fine. But
that's because,
you
want me to do my job? I don't want to do my job. You done lost your mind.
Exactly. So that's, it's a huge problem. But again, like I said, I just throw my hoodie on. My wife and I just hunker down and try to effectuate in the area, in the immediate geographics that we can. So if we're here in Baltimore, we do that. We both went to Virginia State, Virginia Union, so we work with those institutions. And I'm from Greensville County, Virginia, so I work with those institutions where we have, in our area, effectuate the politics to get the politics right. So as we do start to lay out these projects, we have the complete understanding of the process and a complete understanding to let these people that are new into the political space or the governmental space to say it's okay. Don't let that feeling in your gut that, white folks aren't going to like this deter you from doing what your job and what you're allowed to do in your position. So that's how we do it. We can you'll get high blood pressure trying to scream to the world.
Right.
All these things are wrong. So that's why we need to turn the corner from that civil rights era. Okay, we know that there's inequalities and things have happened. Put a period on that. Now we move forward. What do we do to make this change? But the resistance is that these Negroes in these political positions only know how to play that civil rights game and can't bend the corner. So now they want to hold on to that. And people like Liz and I, or my wife and I, just are counterintuitive to that narrative.
So all right, like I said, we done completely changed the subject, but
so I'm gonna reel it back, but I that's why I let y'all go, because it's what we needed.
Right,
but
right. So I'm gonna chime in. So like I said, remember, words become flesh, right?
So what we have to do, so for me, it's all conditioning of the mind. One, we have to eliminate them from the problem. So when we say things are wrong, no, it's not. It's exactly how they designed it.
Yes.
Once again, it's trying to change the game. You're not coming to, if it's my ball, you're not gonna come on my court and take my ball and play how you want to play. If I'm playing 50 put out, no, we're not playing 21. This is what we playing.
Right.
We playing 50 put out. It's my ball, and if I don't want to play, if y'all don't want to play my game, then I'm leaving. That's the mindset we have to have. That it's not our game. We can play the game, and then we can perfect the game. It's been plenty that's perfected the game. But then like you said, we have those who look like us who are happy to be in their condition because guess what? They're safe. They're comfortable. And for those who don't like being comfortable, we have to play our game. All right, we already know what the structure is. We already know who is in front of us and who has certain holes and modes, right? But to an extent, like you said, they've always needed us. We've never needed them. At no point in time in history. So now we have to say, okay, you have this implement, this is the piece. Now, how do I get to it and use it for myself and my people? When I speak, 9 times out of 10, I'm only addressing my people. If you take offense to it, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because I'm talking strictly to my people in order to what we have to do in order to be successful. I'm not taking nothing from nobody else. Only thing I need is green.
So a couple questions off of this discussion. First, Coach Evans, you being in the school system and being around kids and you coaching and showing them different ways that they can get their education, one way being HBCUs. With this, what we see going on, right? And let's just call it what it is. It's it's negative news right now on HBCUs. Have you noticed a change in the kids and their outlook on HBCUs, and if they are now turned down to that being an opportunity or a way to do what they want to do, play ball on the next level, or even go to school and get their education on that level?
No, I don't. I only see that backlash toward Bethune. Kids are even more willing to go to a FAMU or Alcorn or Jackson State, whatever schools out there. This is only a negative light on Bethune. They still want to, especially if they have parents or relatives that have been to HBCUs and how they've talked about it. They still want to be a part of that. This is just a negative light on Bethune because, like I think Mr. Jones said it when we first started, all HBCUs are not the same. They're ran differently. They have different leadership qualities at the top. We have some great leaders at universities. We have some bad leaders. Like my wife swears by one of the presidents of FAMU, and I can't Humphreys. She swears by Dr. Humphreys, like he's the greatest leader that she talks about all the time. And this guy at Bethune seems to be just the opposite. You also have a guy that's and I'm gonna reel this back to Ed Reed because we went way left. what, and Mr. Jones, you said something about Prime earlier, and I kind of forgot the thought I was going to take, but I'm going to try to reel it back in. I think Prime initially went to Jackson State for an opportunity to coach. And then once he got to Jackson State and saw the people and the culture, and he was introduced into how we roll as an HBCU, he started to love it. I really don't. He can spew, and I love D. I think Deion the greatest athlete of all time. But he can spew that he came there for football and for a chance for Shador to start right now. And once he got there, he realized that this is something that everybody needs to know about, and everybody needs to nurture, and the kids need to do better, or the kids need to have better. So that's what I think. And you mentioned about Ed not having the HBCU background. I think these guys that are trying to come back, Ed, Eddie George, Deion, they realize that they may have started this earlier. This needs to, the resources, our black kids need to go to our black institutions and reap the benefit of it, because you get great teaching at these universities. You're not a number. You can actually, the teacher actually probably knows your name and probably know, if you're from the area, probably know your family. So you can get one-on-ones where you're not just student 63512. So I think those guys realize that, hey, the light needs to be shined on these institutions, and I can use my celebrity to build it up. You said he should have leveraged his celebrity toward Bethune, which I agree, but he just didn't have time to do it. Because again, they said he wasn't hired, but the man had more keys than the janitor. He was able to let the contractors in and say, hey, I'm paraphrasing. I don't know exactly what he said. Basically, what can you do to fix this building up? And you can tell it was a football building, because once they went upstairs, you saw X's and O's and stuff on the wall.
On the chalkboard, yeah.
On the chalkboard, yeah. So I think he was headed toward using his celebrity to get a practice field, which they don't have, to get them a probably on-campus locker room and showers, which they don't have. He had, I knew the only person he saw by name that was going to help out was Bethune. Was Shaq.
Shaq.
And he mentioned, somebody with names on the building that was going to come back and help out, and that person is potentially still going to help out. But he was going to use his celebrity to get them practice field, to upgrade their facilities, to probably get just as many jerseys as Deion. Because you think about it, all them guys Ed Reed played with, they love Ed Reed. They love Ed Reed. Some of them millionaires, some of them billionaires, some of them numbers that I don't know about. So you think Ed couldn't call up such and such, I need 50,000 to do whatever. And it's a tax write-off for that person. He was going to slowly hit probably different people and build that thing up. It probably was going to take him longer than Deion, because he's not as, I want to say, polished. And obviously we could tell that by the rant on the thing, but it was going to happen. And that's why I said what I said earlier. Like, me personally couldn't have cursed my bosses out and still had a job, but I ain't Ed Reed. I ain't got the resources. I ain't got the reach Ed got. And as far as Reggie Theus, Ed was going to do his job. Well, not all of his job, was going to do a part of his job for him. Part of your job as an AD is to raise money, better your facilities. Ed was going to do that on a football part by himself. And had they got a nice weight room, I'm sure other sports would have used that weight room. Had they got an upgrade to maybe an on-campus something, other sports would have been able to have access to that. So he was going to improve the facilities, not only for football, but for the school, which would have been a light on the school. And had they been able to get past this one thing and set him down and tell him how bad it reflects on the school and then move on, number great kids for them schools. Great things for those kids that were deciding to come in there. They fumbled the ball, because the only people that's really hurting is the kids. Because Ed still got his money. Ed still got his businesses. Ed still got his foundation. The president obviously ain't going away. He's still going to have the finger up his butt like a puppet. So the only people that's hurting is them kids. Especially the kids that just came there because Ed was there. And now they want to go and they can't.
One being his nephew, I think, too, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if y'all saw it, but there's a young lady that was there when that first video you showed.
Yeah.
She was actually in the audience, and she called a call-in show and talked about her experience there. And it ain't a good look.
No,
it ain't a good look at all.
So just a quick response, right? So we have to always be careful of how we shape the narrative based on the understanding of how the mechanism of NCAA education and NCAA sports work. So even if he would have called Shaq to say, Shaq, I need $100,000 for this facility, that money does not go directly to the athletics department. That money would have to facilitate its way through the school. So we have to, right. Well, part of the problem, because you don't want to necessarily have a department within your institution. I wouldn't want a department within my company to be able to go out and grab money for itself when I am the institution. So just business wise, it's not a problem if it's done the right way, meaning that you can get more bang for your buck by leveraging that money that Shaq would put in a model that allows for it to use it across the board, but has some focus on the athletics. And the example of that was
understanding before you move on. So and just for clarity for me. So you're saying if I was Shaq and I want to donate that $1 million, I give that $1 million to whatever the proper channel is through the presidency or the board or a foundation, whatever, and allow them to funnel it where it needs to go.
Well, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. But I'm gonna give you an example. So Willie Lanier, who I work with at Virginia Union, got the NFL to commit to $1.1 million to build the new football field at Virginia Union University.
Awesome.
The NCAA stepped in and said, because this is too heavily focused on athletics, we're only going to allow you, the NFL, to give $250,000 to the building of the field, which left the school in a bind because the institution called Field Turfs put the field in, and the NFL were not allowed by the NCAA to really push that to give all they had committed to in that transaction, which is the reason why we stepped on the campus to create additional revenue streams to handle that cost of that, the remaining cost of that field, plus some other things. But there's a dynamic there's a dynamic to giving to the university, and I think that it should be that way because the health of the university, if the university goes down, then there will be no more Bethune-Cookman football. So Bethune-Cookman football got a $20 million stadium, and it could not be supported by the university. And even if they paid that stadium off, or they consistently paid for the stadium, and the school went defunct, then you just have a $20 million waste of money because it did not channel properly. Now, I'm not a person that makes the rules. Ideally in that deal, we would love for the NFL to have been able to give the institution to pay the whole bill for the football field. But it's a dynamic to it. So my point is we have to be careful on how we shape the narrative to kind of what our understanding of how it works goes. So it wouldn't be that as simple as Shaq being able to give money for this athletic field without it going through the university. And I think the university, if given $100,000 or $1 million, has to look at what its issues are, any bad debt, any lingering, invoices that need to be paid may need to be paid prior to the athletics facility or field or locker rooms being built. But the talk is with the university. Coach Joe Taylor is the VP of Intercollegiate Athletics for Virginia Union. And we were bringing
can we stick with Bethune and Ed Reed? We keep going to Virginia and Virginia Union, and I understand that's where your thing is. Stick with Ed Reed and this in particular situation, which you did just enlighten me on how the money part works. But can we stay in Bethune and Ed Reed?
Oh, whatever your show, whatever we want to do. I'm just a guest. I'm just trying to reel you in to give you a proper understanding of how business at HBCUs work. I think that's the topic. Say it again.
I understand that, but I'm also trying to give you the perspective as a donor and how donors feel when their monies are not going where they're directed. And then if you can't trust the person that you actually have to give the check to, then there's a whole nother problem that for a whole nother show.
Well, again, your lack of understanding is saying that's not how they would go. They would go to the school. They wouldn't go to the athletic department. Couldn't accept a check from anyone.
You just said that, and I said you just enlightened me on
Right.
it. So you saying my lack of understanding is another shot, which we ain't gonna have too many more shots.
Okay, so hold on. That's let me reel it back in. It's not that. We go. So look, there's a it seems like the understanding is there's an issue at the top, right?
So, Mike,
I
I want
think
to
all
jump
three
in.
will say that.
No. So I got a quick
Question for both the coaches, for both the other panelists. Do you think HBCU
should be still under NCAA? What benefit does
NCAA have for HBCU?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. All the schools get some percentage of the money that the NCAA gets, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong again. Our schools, our HBCU, say again.
You're wrong.
I didn't even say.
You're wrong because that's not how it happens. I can tell you, and I don't want to say. I'm not going to say Virginia Union, but this team from an HBCU conference made it to the playoffs this year. So the NCAA comes in and takes the gate. They take all the promotion. There's no benefit.
And you have to bid on the game too. They have to bid to host the game. They have to bid to host the game, even if they're a higher seed.
What?
Listen, FAMU put in a bid to try to host it.
Basically, what you just told me is there's no point in HBCUs being in NCAA.
No.
Economically, for no reason, because we don't get television time and we don't get revenue.
Right. Exactly. You're exactly right. And again,
that's a dumb business deal.
It is. And when I played in the mid 90s, we won our conference championship, and they took a team. And this is just the shape. I'm not talking about me. This is just to shape the narrative of the NCAA that you said, Coach D. They took a team that was 5-5 from Texas and put them in our region, even though we were the conference champion, because we were HBCU. So we weren't able to participate. Back-to-back championships, we weren't able to participate in the NCAA playoffs. Now, since the mid-90s, they've gotten a lot better. But that's what it was back when we won back-to-back championships.
They did it this year too with FAMU. FAMU was like 9-2, and they took a school that was like 500, if not lower, to the.
If we're not
playoff.
making any money, what is the point?
Right, that's right. So that's why we lead, we create, and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. And I won't say the university that I'm working with that is working with the NCAA to create our own HBCU postseason tournament. It's only relevant because these are the people who led the way, who are trying to fix this issue. But again, educating our folks on this issue is part of the marketing that needs to be done in order to. Part. Yeah. So,
because that's no information.
This is not my groove. I mean, athletics is my groove. I'm a football player, but what we're doing now, what Liz and I are doing, is out of love. We are a construction firm. We are education specialists. We do this because of kind of like the passion that's going on and around the discussions now about HBCUs, because we want to make a change. We don't sit by and, bump gums about what we think we know. We go out and get it done. And, we don't have it's not self-serving. We're talking about this topic, and I can tell you from personal experience what I'm doing, what we're doing, and some of the models that can be used to change that narrative. But like we're saying, a part of it is changing the narrative of our understanding. And sometimes we get ground in 10 toes deep in ignorance and have no clue about how we moving or what we're talking about, but are stuck in it. And that is cooning. That is a kind of a derivative of coons. There's a kind of derivative of what my wife would say, that Steven syndrome from Django. It's just like, we block our own spaces simply because we want it to be the emotional narrative that we feel as opposed to an informed narrative. So again, that's the thing that we have to fight, is perception. in our endeavors, we have only spent money. We haven't gained any money yet. At the end of the big picture is we hope that we create a economic deal out of these things. But the point is that we're driving, that there is a way, there is a model to change this narrative. In Ed Reed, primetime, which was the big disappointment for me in primetime. He had started to drive that economics towards HBCUs. He was getting 4 and 5 star athletes to commit to HBCUs, and the way he marketed HBCUs was making everyone look at HBCUs as, I want to go there. I want to go to a place.
Was it HBCUs or just Jackson? Because Delaware State didn't get no 5-star athletes.
No. It was Jackson, but he showed you right. Neither did Virginia State.
So, like I said, I had that debate with somebody. I think it was more, like I said, Prime is he's a planet, or he's a sun, so he has gravitational pull. If we look at the statistics, I don't think anybody really got anything different besides Jackson State. That's why they could run through, the SWAC the way they did, because they had top tier athletes. Like, I went pro, so I played in the pros. The biggest difference is tackle to tackle. Like, when I met Chris Samuels, 6'6", 350-pound man that can move like a tight end. Big Danny Wilkinson, 330 pounds, who could dunk a basketball. And I was like, dude, y'all not normal. That's not human.
Right.
LeVar Arrington with a 55-inch vertical, whatever he could, at 250 pounds, that's not normal. So if you're getting that, yeah, that's the advantage. But I was really thinking about it. NCAA, I want my money back, man.
I think what Prime was doing, in my opinion, is I think it has to be shown that you can get to ultimately where you want to get to through that route. I mean, Denarian, you won. Of course, we talked about a whole bunch of people. Yeah, I mean, and we talked about a bunch of people, and as we started the show, that was really their only way, our black people only way of getting there. You know what I mean? It was through the HBCU route, and we showed that it could happen. They just like we already painted, our greatest resource was taken from us, and they were told. I mean, you got a story as well, D-Mac, where PWIs was coming to you, like, why you want to, and teachers, why you want to go there? You know what I mean? When you can go here. So I think Prime was kind of outlining and showing that, look, you can get to where you want to get to from here. This is a route to get to as well. But I know, Coach, you got a dip at 12 or just about 12. So I'm gonna reel it back in. I do got one more question for you, Plus. Can you, because we kind of talked about this on the last week's episode. Can you explain the difference in the funding for a private institution versus a state institution, and how they can move? From my understanding, private institutions can move a little different than the state funded institutions. Can you explain the difference in those two?
Somewhat. I'll give it a try. I think that, like, private institutions they are public institutions are allowed to create projects that can then be presented to the state, that then the state will walk down the resources that will mitigate the financing for that project. So when you develop a project, the goal is to get it financed first through a construction loan. And the reason why a developer will come in and do a construction loan is because they can see the final mortgage being a loan to value of 50% of the cost. So as an example, if you have a $100 million project, if the state resources say you can get $50 million, then the construction loan would be given. So then the institution can build the center or whatever project they're doing, and their final mortgage after all of the subsidies and grants from the state will be able to be applied. It'll be $50 million. So it does two things. As value, gives that university $50 million in equity, but it also allows the developer to do 100% financing, so you don't have to wait on those dollars to come in. At a private institution.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to, before you got too far from it. So with this is a legit question because I don't know. With the state showing that they have that 50 million, would it almost be guaranteed that the construction loan would get that other 50 million because they show they have 50 million like at their disposal? Is that, maybe I said that wrong? Is that kind of
no? So no, you're on the right track. So project is 100 million. You can give when the institutions develop what they call an economic pro forma, then at that point you can see that all the subsidies that are available for the state for this project, and the project has to line up with education, Title III, economic development, some part of money that the state has for those type of projects. And if the developer can see that this $50 million will come, they will 100% finance the project because they know the economics of the final mortgage can be handled through the operations of the project plus the subsidies. That's for a public institution. Private institutions don't have that leeway. They can develop projects, but now they're relying on legislation, meaning they have to, the state has to put in a law for this private education institution to provide those subsidies and grants, or they have to have a robust corporate kind of a playing space where different corporations can say, we'll donate enough to make up that $50 million in subsidy to get that loan to value to 50%, which the developers will be willing to 100% finance the project.
So business, back to business.
Just for clarity, for as far as the difference from that, you say the state will kind of help fund projects with the state institution, whereas when you go to private, they need to basically fundraise double time to get that same project paid for. So is that similar to, is that kind of correct? Is on the right train of thought?
Yep. Okay. Yes, you're right. Fundraise or ask their legislator to put in legislation that allows the state to give money from those pockets of money to that private institution. So it's an extra, yeah. So
no,
you're correct.
So if Bethune, like they show mold and all the stuff in their dorms, so in order for them to get new dorms built, they have to basically take a plan to legislator, get them to approve that plan, maybe turn it into a bill or something. Is that along the right line? Saying it right?
Yes, for a private institution, you got it.
And then basically have corporate monies or donations to pay to fund that dorm. Correct?
No, it's the corporate developers and the legislation are in the same pocket. So you either through corporate funding and legislation account for your 50% loan to value.
Gotcha.
So the money, the initial money, say the $100 million comes from a developer, a real estate developer that comes in and say, okay, you have that money coming. We'll fund the project and give us the rights to be the project management, which gives them about 8% of the construction cost of the project. We'll put up the 100% because we know that you're going to be able to buy that mortgage out in 2 to 3 years once the project is fully developed. Okay. So the developers bring the money in.
Appreciate it. That part, like I said, that part I didn't know because I stay out of the financials for the most part unless I'm fairly certain. And so for that part, that's why I appreciate you for enlightening me on it. I had a general idea, but that kind of made it clearer, and it's probably gonna make it clear for a lot of people that's listening to. Honestly,
that's the aspect too that I wanted to add to this conversation, because we did discuss financials and private institutions and stuff like that. And you're right, I backed off of discussing it so much because I don't want to say nothing wrong. These people that's watching, they'll jump in you and say, "Oh, you don't know what you're talking about." Blah blah.
But that creates conversation, though. I don't mind. Nah, if I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I don't mind. But
that's what it's all.
That's how you learn.
Yeah,
that's how you learn. You never stop learning. You're never too old to learn. So I learned something today. 100%. Somebody else may have learned something. Here's what it is.
I need my money back from the NCAA.
Oh yeah, why you say that, D? Why you say that?
Because I daggone failed the SATs twice. and then I went 7-4 my senior year, and I went home. I didn't get no playoffs. I didn't know that we didn't get any money. Like, I'm thinking, okay, we're part of NCAA because because it was like, at that point in time it was D1 AA or whatever, and we just kind of stayed in a smaller bracket. So I'm thinking, we'll play a Kentucky team or West Virginia team or something. But no, now you telling me
who, like said, this is the part that's killing me about who is doing these deals? I'm giving you all my resources. You're going to make money off me, and I get nothing.
Don't institutions have to pay like a fee to be a part of the NCAA?
Yeah,
That's a racket.
And then you get nothing in return.
Absolutely. And then they come in and take your gates when you do make the playoff. They come in and they take a gate when it's just is institutionalized. The best I can say is just how it's always been. But again, I mean, I don't want to say this necessarily, but I got a text from coach this morning because we have a question into the NCAA about the ability to do HBCU national championship and keep the SIAC teams and the CIAA teams. Are they in their legal rights to take this game as opposed to going to the Division II playoffs? Right. So there are groups, and I'm sure we're not the only one trying to walk down these institutional questions to really make a way. And I think Coach Prime, led it because he was like, I'm not going to Division I AA playoffs. I'm gonna go take this $1 million that ESPN is giving our conference. It makes sense because when you go travel during the playoffs, you got to pay for your team. They're not sending you to the playoffs. They're not paying for your ride to the playoffs or your plane ride or your band to come. They're not paying for that. The school is. So making the playoffs is a pride thing for the athletic department, but it is a financial liability to the school.
Yes, I was going to say that I did know that they have to, when you make the playoffs, like I mentioned it a minute ago, if you want to host the game, you have to draw up a bid to the NCAA to say why you should host that game. And I found that out even if you're a higher seed, which is nuts. And normally, in normal logic, you think if I'm the 1 seed, I'm gonna host the game, or I'm a higher seed, I'm gonna host the game. Why am I trying to convince, so to speak, the NCAA let me host this game that I can actually do it and earn money from it? And then if they do it, if I can do it, they come in and take like Mr. Jones, they come in and take it.
Only reason I would assume that they would take
national television because you get advertisement money. I don't think they can.
But he just said we get, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Mr. Jones, that we get nothing from them, right?
No, we get nothing. You get nothing. The conferences hold all the rights, the TV rights to the teams. The schools individually do. But then in the case of the CIAA, the schools give the rights because none of them have their own mixed media. They give the rights to advertise or TV time to a third-party group. And that party then makes the deals for TV ads and TV time. I think a lot of HBCUs now are heavy on CW. So there was a deal cut, I know, for the CIAA to play in the SIAC. They play on CW as well. So those are kind of the business things that I think, again, like this, what you're doing, Mikey, here is helping to educate the public, because I want to be able to walk through things with my head up and be able to say, these are the things that are happening. Here's what we can do, and here's how we can do it, and have people have some semblance of understanding of what it is that is really going on, because it's never exactly what the is painted in the media. Right. It's always a story behind that. And I think podcasts are great platforms to dive into details on very, very specific projects or types of projects.
So that's why I appreciate what Roland did. He didn't just give you head side. He didn't just give you the kid side. He allowed the president to speak first, to say his piece, then brought others on, and then when stories didn't match, then there were the issues. So, but I think it starts with conversation. It starts with conversation, right? And then go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and you notice in those conversations, you got to feel the perspective of that person, and I, like you, understood that president is old school. He's stuck, and he's a puppet. So, but that lets the public know, okay, I can kind of feel what's going on, but then you have to really tab in on that. And why are HBCU presidents or that type of old school president, why is he who he is? Yeah. And then you go back to the board. I mean, it opens up a shitload of you can tab for it. It's like going down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Compliant Negroes live better because
the dominant culture gonna make sure to take care of.
Yeah, I do it. One last question. I know you've been trying to wrap it up, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, you good. You good.
Host
You
Timmy
good.
came up because I learned something, and even though I had to spout, and I apologize for that, but I'm passionate too. I apologize for that, Mr. Jones. That was out of line of me. Damn, I forgot my question. I remember.
No, we learn to talk to each other. No, I get it. It's things that we all black males, and we all, it's just a posture, and I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm gonna smile it off.
This question is,
Mike,
what? How can they fix that? What do you think Bethune needs to do to fix that?
Start over.
I think we already discussed it.
Okay.
Come up with the project. Mm-hmm. Come up with the project. Get an understanding from the project what the project cost is. Find and the thing about any university, small, big, in good shape or bad shape, there's goodwill from corporations because there's some people that are doing some things on that campus. The food person or the food supplier or the caterer is probably the same caterer that goes from Bowie State all the way down through Tuskegee, and they are a global institution, and they are almost at every HBCU. Then you find you someone that will help you pay for that feasibility study to verify what the project that you've built. Mm-hmm. So the campus real estate developer has to come up with a team to come up with a project that needs to be done. And right now the dorms it could be the first issue. And the things about dormitory is they're low-hanging fruit for real estate developers, meaning they all have models to come in to do new dormitories that will benefit the campus and a benefit to them. Mm-hmm. The only caveat about that I would say is that they do not give up their real estate, and they tell that real estate developer, we, the institution, want to be a co-developer on this project. So you never and we as an institution will ground lease to that partnership or that joint venture agreement. That's the only caveat there. So you create a plan and you move it forward, and you understand that you have to, as a private institution, we had to fundraise or get our local delegate to put in legislation to give us the amount of money that will get the loan to value under 50%. And that allows that developer to say, this is a project that we can invest in. Here's 100% financing. We'll take our 8% from the construction of the project. And then your final mortgage would be 50% or less of the value of that building. And any real estate deal, anybody that's bought a house understands the LTV of your income. And if you are able to afford that, and plus you come in that project with equity, then, the deal is good to go.
Yeah. And lastly, and I'm gonna shut up. Hearing all that and understanding it more, me as if I had the means to donate, I really would hold it until leadership changed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's well, that's what I was saying. As far as when they mentioned Shaq and
somebody said something about he still should donate. No, I'm not donating to something that I don't know. Or like when I donated back to Delaware State, I made sure Dr. Becker had the money because I knew Dr. Becker what he was going to do with it, and I was like, when I show up, what you said you was going to get, I need to see it. If not, you will never see another dollar from me. Mm-hmm. And then of course,
absolutely.
And then like I said, then it comes down to like, okay, now with the football squad, you know what I mean? When certain coaches in there, I tend to show up a little more. When certain coaches aren't there, I'm just a good, I'm alumni.
That's exactly what we did at the university that we work with. We knew that the feasibility, the market analysis was going to cost around $200,000, and we were willing to give that. But we said we come with this $200,000. We come with this $200,000, so we're going to walk the university through this process of developing the real estate deal for the project. And that, to me, and we wouldn't move until they sign an agreement that says that our company, our organization, is going to donate $200,000, and we're going to walk you through this process to come to a deal that's feasible financially and fits what the university goals are.
So basically, your money, our money comes with our input too.
You're daggone right.
That's implicit. Exactly. That's implicit. Exactly.
I'm putting my money down. This is how it's going to be ran.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Man, so look, Mac, I got one question for you too, because I know what you found out, excuse me, about the NCAA, right, and how it how it functions and how the money is allocated. You led the entire nation in touchdowns one year. Did you get any type of recognition, any type of award, anything, or they just said, "Yo, good job"? That's it.
No, I didn't. If anything, I got awards from like the smaller. If anything, I got awards from Black College. That was it. Nobody, like I said, coming from a HBCU, you don't get no love from nobody else, man. No. So I went. It was. I think it was the BSN, Black College. That's where I first met. I met Greg Lloyd. I met Doug Williams, Mel Blount. Like that was the first guys I met. That was in the league, and they had told me I could go, but at that point in time, it still wasn't. It still wasn't real to me. It was like, yeah,
Right.
you go to league. You can go to league, and I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to play basketball, man. I got my degree. I'm about to go be a teacher. Like that was my thought process until they was like, yo, just stay in shape. Just stay in shape. Just stay in shape. And I'm
Right.
like, I'm gonna do that anyway. That's who and what I am. And then things happen. But no, there was no recognition from nothing. Not matter of fact, I think I still got my jacket, but that's it. Like I got a couple plaques, a couple pieces of paper to say, hey, congratulations. But it never did anything, what I mean, for me. Like I get paper all the time. What I mean?
Right.
Like you don't do nothing.
Wow. I mean, I think maybe and maybe not. Times are changing that. I mean, I think you may see more and more now where just because it's a little it's a little different, off putting for me because I'm a little skeptical of ESPN. I like the and those other networks. I like the attention it's giving HBCUs, but then it's also like it's also a money thing for them as well.
Yeah,
It's
clicks.
all, but it's
It's one of
always
those.
money, Mike.
Yeah,
That's the
Clicks for
part.
them.
That's part of our problem.
The thing is, they didn't pick up on this stuff to after rolling.
Right.
yeah,
But I'm saying, like, we're a commodity. We don't use ourselves as a commodity. We don't
No,
take
and-
we don't take advantage of our entertainment. We don't take advantage of anything that we do. We give it all away and say, hey, why don't y'all pay us? When we own everything, we own hip hop, we own music, we own entertainment businesses, but yet we keep giving it away for free and then get mad when they don't pay us or when they don't give us awards. That's why I'm never big on awards. Who's giving me this award?
right.
It ain't my people.
Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you, all that is absolutely true. In 2019, the ACC tournament and the CIAA tournament were both held in Charlotte, North Carolina. The economic impact of the CIAA tournament outpaced the ACC tournament by over $7 million.
Mr. Jones, I
Wow.
had a friend of mine that did the and I don't know what year it was. He did the program for that tournament, and the stuff he was telling me as far as how supported and how many people out there and all the things that go on around with the tournament. I was like, why everybody can't put on a function like this? Because I've heard and I've never been, but I've heard nothing but outstanding things about that basketball tournament.
It is an experience that I wish you would have when it was down south. Oh my God. I mean, I was in the middle of craziness when I went down there, but it changed my perspective. I mean, anybody talk about them going there, it's almost like Vegas. What happened at CIAA stays at CIAA.
Hey,
You know what I mean?
back, and that's the only time I was gonna go was with you, but it snowed up here.
okay.
Me, you and Donna was gonna go 1 year, but it snowed, so we was like, nah, we ain't gonna get on the road. But that was the only time that I was gonna go down there. But I heard the same thing. What happens down there stays down there.
Hey.
So look, fellas, I so greatly appreciate y'all coming on. Like I said, short notice, having this much needed discussion, educating the people on what's really going on behind the scenes, and that's truly what I wanted to do. Like y'all said, man, it's a lot of people giving their opinion on these subjects, and a lot of them don't know what's really going on, and they just speaking from an emotional standpoint, and that's easy. That's easy to say you agree with this or agree with that, but I wanted to get some people that's involved, some alum who's experienced certain things, and that's what I did. And I appreciate y'all wholeheartedly for doing this. Look, before we get out of here, man, let the people know where they can find you and hear more of your opinions or support what you got going on. Coach, let's start with you, man. At Sip to Tally Films. Let the people know what you got going on over there.
Okay. Obviously, you can find me at Sip to Tally Films on YouTube and more Sip to Tally. Twitter, you can find me at Coach Evans 9, and on IG and TikTok, it's Sip to Tally Films, and it's really just all 22 perspective of the NFL football. Right now, I was working on draft content, so you'll start to see guys that I think highly of, or guys that I think other people think highly of, on the channel, and just come through and check it out. If you like it, subscribe. If you don't, I understand.
And that's also coaches leaving out that we do a show Monday nights called The Round Table. He, myself, and 4 other gentlemen get together and we discuss the Ravens, but now it's the off season. So we're gonna be talking off season and other things that's going on in the football
Will Lamar
world.
get the $150 million?
Pretty much. That's what we debating right now. And but I told Coach and I told the listeners from Coach's channel that my job is to get you to see a different side of Coach and not so much be talked about Raven base, but giving his opinion on things like this. So I appreciate you, Coach D-Mac.
Darnarian McCants. You can find me at Coach McCants on all platforms. Outside of education, I am a mentor, philanthropist, and I have a sports training business or sports and fitness training business. Everything is at Coach McCants. I keep it simple, straight and direct. You hit me, I hit you back.
And Matt, you also have an endowment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So I have the Finance Foundation, which is geared towards literacy. Trying to get young folks to start reading and be more prominent and dominant in reading earlier, because once we've discovered that they can read before 4th grade, it actually takes care of them for the rest of their life. As well as my endowment at Delaware State, which is geared towards artists, because football, they're going to get money, but unfortunately, young black men who can actually draw and articulate what's inside their head don't get much money. But yet, creatives, we run the world, because if not, you don't get cool stuff like this.
All designed by you, right?
No, I didn't design that. No, that's
okay. I thought you did that one.
Somebody did it. There had to be an artist though.
Okay. So check out Mac. Find out, follow him on social medias, and find out what else he got going on, and maybe you can help donate whatever you gotta do to help that brother do what he do. He left out that he's helping. I've seen personally him steer a lot of our kids to HBCUs. The ones who think they could go to Miami, they could go to Alabama, and he kind of gives them the real, like, listen, man, I'm not going to discourage you. If you can get there, I'm going to help you get there. But there is another path that you can get to and get some free money for school. So shout out to you, Matt. And then my brother, Ples Jones, listen, short notice, man, I appreciate you. I love you, brother. You already know that. Let the people know what you got going on, because you got a lot, right? You do a lot of moving and shaking around here and in other places. Let them know what you got going on and how they can support and find more information on what you got going on.
Thank you, Mike. And I love you too, good brother. Equality Equation Project, e2equation.com on the web, Equality Equation on all the platforms. We'll look forward to building. We have the financing for the Equality Works Infrastructure Academy that we're building on North Avenue, the end of North Avenue at Bel Air Road and Sinclair Lane. 5 acres of workforce development training where we would centralize vocational education for Baltimore City Public Schools in the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, as well as affordable housing in and around on the additional 10 acres that are owned by the city. We also have the Quality Works Infrastructure Academy down in Washington, D.C. We're working with the D.C. Infrastructure Academy, where we're training workforce development, labor force for energy, construction, and the utilities field. We also do it here in Baltimore at the Baltimore Unity Hall for heavy equipment operator programs through the Mayor's Office of Employment Development. And of course, we've heard throughout this podcast the work I'm doing with Virginia Union University to build the first Black healthcare center on an HBCU campus at Virginia Union University. So we're looking forward to jumping into that in late March of 23. We're also working with LST Marketing who it was Roger Staubach's and Mario Andretti's a firm that would do a lot of bowl games. They're working with us, and we just got the word day before yesterday that they're greenlighting the project to create the second HBCU postseason tournament. We're calling it the Equality Bowl, and we're looking to have the first one in 2024 in Washington, D.C. at Audi Field. So those are the things we're working on, still moving around the country to effectuate wellness in the space of education and workforce development, sports and recreation, and health and wellness. So you can find us at Equality Equation on all platforms.
There you have it, people. And look.
Hey, Mike, hold on.
What up?
That young man just said a mouthful. That's a lot to be doing at any age.
Yeah.
At any age. And I just want to salute you personally because a lot of that stuff is going to educate us in spaces that we don't normally move in.
Yeah.
And reason that hit hard with me because we are starting personal finance in Florida, and it's about to be mandatory. So a lot of the stuff that you just spoke on, I probably won't get to it on the level that I'm teaching it because it's beginner stuff. But the kids that grasp it and can move on forward with it through college and through adulthood will end up in spaces like what you're doing, and that will make us better as a whole. And not just it'll obviously help their family and teach people, but it'll make us better as a whole to start to close that 400-year gap, so to speak.
Yeah,
that's
why I told you, Mr. Jones, I had to debate you on that later.
I'm down. I love a good debate. Yes.
Yeah, that power that's about to shift. They scared. They're terrified.
It's happening though. You can feel it.
Mm-hmm. And I will say this: that Jackson State was not the only. It was trickle down. Maybe the northern, the HBCUs up north probably didn't see it, but Southern saw it. Alcorn saw it. FAMU definitely saw it. There was a trickle down. I don't think everybody did. I think it was just in this little condensed area. But people been leaving big schools and coming back to HBCUs for a long time. The difference is Prime got a couple to sign out of high school.
You can see it,
right out of high school. Yeah.
But I want to make one last note. The SWAT can never beat the MEAC. They haven't beat them yet. They haven't beat them yet.
That's what I'm talking about.
Shut it down a minute ago. Yeah. We should have shut it down a minute ago.
So that
one
is just,
what 1-7.
Right.
Is that what it is? Yeah, because
I think Grambling won it, and that was it.
Yeah.
Alcorn went the first 3 years, lost to A&T maybe or somewhere in there.
Yeah, when they won the MEAC, then Dion lost to South Carolina State last year, and they lost to Central this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The and you know the MEAC, all the MEAC teams came from the CIAA.
But it's like Max said, it's in the trenches.
Yeah, absolutely.
Trenches.
Well, look, Coach, I'm gonna give you this one. You should have had a Heisman winner down there.
We definitely did.
McNair should have won that thing.
Oh,
that's
but like I said, we waiting for somebody else to give us our flowers, man.
Yeah. And Mac, 16 touchdowns, whatever it was you had in leading the nation. You should have been sitting there, right? You should have been sitting there like Randy Moss was with the shades on and the braids. That's how they should have had you up there.
See, but like I say, I've never looked for the accolades, man. I just wanted to play ball.
But look, man, y'all some great brothers, man. I appreciate y'all. That's another episode of Open Mic. Look, man, follow me on social media at OTR_Mike on Twitter and TikTok, at OTR_Mike on Instagram. I told y'all, man, I still do this solo journey. And with brothers like this, man, it makes it easy for me to do. So again, I appreciate all the support, and I'll holler at y'all next week. Peace.